You're a dietitian and you are considering taking insurance in your dietitian private practice, or you already do take insurance, should you hire a biller or do that billing yourself? So, we're going to dig into some of the main reasons that people might consider hiring a biller and why I personally believe that this is actually not in your best interest. My name is Sheena, and I'm a registered dietitian that has been in private practice for the past decade. And if you're interested in getting started with your private practice, definitely click that subscribe button and the alert button so you don't miss any new episodes. There's all kinds of business tips and tricks kind of sprinkled throughout my YouTube channel. So definitely, if you're getting started, give it a good binge watch and you'll find all sorts of tricks to get started with your private practice. All right, so some of the main reasons that I hear people want to hire a biller for their insurance private practice is it's too complicated. This is just making my head spin. I'm digging into all these CAQH, NPI, Medicaid numbers, Medicare numbers, etc., and my mind is just blown. I feel so overwhelmed. I also hear people say, I don't have time. I don't have time to credential new providers, maybe including myself, or I don't have time to bill on behalf of the patients or verify insurance benefits. Number 3 is I have too many patients and/or too many staff members that need to get credentialed with insurance or new hires, etc. So while there maybe can be some benefit in some realm of the biller world, I pretty much always advise against this, especially for new dietitians getting started with their dietitian private practice. And the first reason why is it really actually takes more time, not less. So when we're thinking about the amount of time that it takes to fill out things like CAQH, etc., it really is no more time than a job application. And it's always kind of humorous to me when people do hire a biller and they're like, oh, they're just going to take care of all that credentialing, contracting, etc. But really, we have to provide that person with all of our information anyways. And when we're filling out something like the CAQH, it's basically just that. It's like, what is our name? What is like our background, our job history, our NPI number, etc. And so if we're going to provide that to the biller anyways, and then wait for the biller to actually do that contract on our behalf, we're actually taking significantly more time. Same thing with calling these insurance companies and trying to see where we're at in that credentialing process. It's going to take us significantly more time to call the biller and explain what we want them to do than to simply just call that insurance company ourselves. So it really does not save time at all. This includes when we're billing for dietitian services. With dietitians, we really only use a few codes. And when you're providing services to your patient, depending on what your niche is, you're only going to be using a few diagnosis codes and maybe 2, maybe 3 CPT codes tops. If you don't know what that is, definitely check out my tips and tricks on billing videos. There's a few of them there, but basically they're just what service did you provide for that insurance company. Now, you guys, it literally takes me less than 5 seconds to generate a claim in my EHR system for each patient. You can actually add, as soon as that patient comes in, a diagnosis code, attach it to the patient's file, as well as a CPT code, and boom, you're pretty much done with the claim in 2 seconds. Now, imagine having to submit that claim to your biller, tell them what you did, etc., and then that biller on your behalf submits that claim. Why? Why are we doing this? This is significantly more time to write the email or whatever system you're using to your biller than to do that yourself. And I will stand firm on this, whether you have one dietitian in your practice, multiple dietitians in your practice, you're seeing 5 patients a week, or you're seeing 45 patients a week. it's 5 seconds a claim, you guys. Like, you're going to spend more time talking to your biller than you're going to uh, have doing it on your own. So, really, it does not save time at all. Now, a lot of people will argue, I don't want to spend a lot of time verifying benefits or following up on claims. Um, I will give you this. The following up on claims can be a pain in the behind. It is one of those really annoying things that you do have to do from time to time. And sometimes you are sitting on the phone for an hour or so with that insurance company. But there are even ways to make this much, much faster, right? So maybe it's once every 2 months or 3 months. You're just designating a specific amount of hours to check on all those claims that are a little bit wonky. And then in that case, you're calling one insurance company at a time, and you're verifying all of those claims on that same call. So that does reduce the time significantly. Another thing to know is that actually a lot of billers don't even offer this service. So you're going to really want to check with your biller if they even offer things like checking on claims, etc. And then as far as verifying benefits, this one's such a mind twister, right? I never verify benefits. So I will guide the patient on what I think is going to be covered. I will give the patients the specific codes I plan to use. And that patient is responsible for calling and verifying those benefits. I can say with about 95% accuracy what is going to be covered for most things, but I never guarantee that, and I make that very clear to the patient. Honestly, guys, most patients will just choose to take the risk. They'll be like, "Oh, we trust you. We're just going to take the risk. Bill our card if it doesn't end up going through." Most insurance companies also do have about a week turnaround if you're getting like electronic payments. And so even if their claim is denied, they've maybe paid for one session, and then they can reconsider if they want to continue working with you based on, hey, this is going to be an out-of-pocket cost. And they know that very, very quickly because you can turn that around and just be like, okay, here, they didn't cover this service. So that is one thing. If you are waiting on a biller, this is so much of your time, right? Like if you're waiting on the biller to sit on the phone with insurance for 2-3 hours potentially, okay, probably not that long, but it's substantial sometimes. I have waited an hour and a half to just verify a benefit. 50% of the time, the rep is going to tell you the wrong thing anyways. So you really, really need to know your patient population and what is generally covered under certain codes with certain plans, or the rep can jerk you all over the place. And that's another reason that I really don't encourage hiring a biller, because when you're thinking about hiring a biller to do something like verify benefits, and they're also verifying benefits for, say, doctor's offices, therapy's office, chiropractors, etc., they're working with like a bajillion claims on a bajillion different plans, right? And so all they're able to do is just call and be like, hey, do you cover this? Do you cover this code? What codes do you cover? Well, most of the time the rep doesn't even know. And so unless you know what questions to ask to clarify, which if you're a biller working for, tons of other professions, you're not going to know those questions in and out like you would if it's your own practice and you've been billing on your own. And so therefore, honestly, a lot of the times, if that biller is calling on the behalf of the patient and just giving codes and they don't know the questions to ask, they are probably going to give you incorrect information, which you're not going to know anything about billing. And so you're going to give that to the patient. And, a lot of times you're going to lose patients when actually they are covered. So I just had this in an instance the other day where a patient, Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, had called and said, okay, I called to verify my benefits with one of the reps, and they said that it was only covered for in-person visits. And I said, well, let's give them a call back because that doesn't sound accurate. So they called back and they said, okay, actually, the rep now says that the virtual is covered for 15-minute sessions. And I said, that is absolutely not accurate, because I know that would just never be a thing with an insurance company, right? I've been billing enough to know that this information is inaccurate. But if you're using a biller and they're billing for lots of other professions, they're never going to know that. So I literally told that patient, I was like, that doesn't even sound logical. Like, no insurance company is going to cover a 15-minute session. Plus, we already know that they're probably not giving you accurate information because they told you something totally different last time. So I was able to do that. And so if you honestly are using a biller to verify benefits, you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table. You probably are. And like I said, the biller might not even offer this service anyways. So that's one of the reasons I don't usually recommend that. I do have a friend right now that is using a biller, and I keep really trying to kind of lure her away from it because she's just started her private practice as a massage therapist, right? And so she is telling me about how she's probably making 40, 50,000 a year, like, in her practice, billing insurance and what have you. And she's constantly on the phone with me and she's saying, oh, Aunt messed up my claims, etc. I need to call them. I've been on the phone with them for weeks. I said, don't you have a biller? And she said, yeah. I said, well, what does your biller do? And she said, well, she files the claims, and if I have questions, she tells me what to do. She's given this biller multiple thousands of dollars per year, you guys. Like, I think it's like 10% a claim. And this biller is literally just like pressing a button on what she's already provided them. And I said, okay, well, I would think that a biller would call and just kind of reconcile this troubleshooting that you're doing. Oh, no, she doesn't do that. I said, well, what does she do? Does she verify? No, she doesn't verify. And so I guess like the purpose of this biller is just to kind of do some hand holding because she's scared to jump off the ledge and do this business stuff herself. So, I mean, that's totally up to her. I'm still trying to figure out what this biller does, besides push a button on that claim. So yeah, you really should look at what they actually do offer. But again, alongside with that time and then potentially giving you inaccurate information. And then also, another thing is you're going to have to wait. When a patient calls you up and you're like, oh, I don't know if your insurance covers it. I don't know if they cover that specific diagnosis. If you're doing your own billing, you're going to probably know that already. When that person is on the phone, you're going to be like, yeah, it's probably this, and this is covered. But if you're using a biller, you have to call the biller, call the patient back, which every element of friction that you put between the patient booking that appointment and coming to see you and getting on a call with you is a very, very reduced likelihood that they're actually going to continue that process of getting booked with you. So you're probably losing a lot of money in that because you can't answer the questions about insurance. So that as well, if you have, a lot of staff members or you're frequently bringing on a lot of new staff members, I would say this would be the one place that I would maybe consider like a billing service, just so that they can quickly do the CAQH, add them to your group practice, etc. But even so, I mean, your dietitians can do their own CAQH. It's really not that hard to add somebody onto a practice. But what does tend to happen is sometimes insurance companies, regardless of what you put on the CAQH and how you kind of put that person into the group, they do goofy stuff and they'll try to just credential that person on their own or what have you. So the only benefit I would really say to having a biller do this that is really fluent in this is that they're going to be able to spot those things really easily on a contract. So that might be one area where I would say maybe a biller is warranted. But other than that, I almost never recommend hiring a biller, you guys. You're gonna get a huge chunk of your paycheck taken out. You're not gonna be able to streamline the intake process for patients as quickly. And quite frankly, I just think you're gonna leave a lot of money on the table. So those are my thoughts on the billers. Definitely, if you have a different experience, feel free to drop a comment below. And everybody is different. If you have a biller and you love it, I'm not saying anything against that. But if you are new, these have just been my experiences. It has been so much more efficient for me to just know this like the back of my hand, no changes, etc. So I hope that this information was helpful for you. If so, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with a friend.